Welcome to the Leader More podcast. Our motive is to pass on what we've found helpful over the years through leading teams, running operations, and dealing with life's challenges. We hope you enjoy. Welcome, Blake. Really appreciate you giving up some time to have a chat. I get I've probably twisted your arm a little bit here, and you're probably thinking, well, what can I actually add? What value can I add from a leadership perspective? But I really like the idea of sitting down with a young leader, someone who has spent over the last 5 to 10 years, gone from leaving school, going into the workforce, taking on leadership roles, and dealing with all that in a short period of time, and with that being very clear in their mind. I think from a leadership point of view, you can hear from people like myself with some grey hair and some war stories from the 90s and 2000s just about how everything should be with the benefit of time and all good in hindsight. But I'm really interested in sitting down and talking to you just around all the stuff that you've gone through and how that felt and what you struggled with, what helped you get through it, and all that sort of stuff. So really appreciate it, mate.
No worries at all, mate. Yeah, you're dead right. You have twisted my arm. A little bit out of my comfort zone, but yeah, happy to come on, have a chat, and the invoice is coming.
Yeah. How much?
Can't say, mate, but expensive.
Oh, yeah, geez. Too many zeros, I'm sure.
That's right, yeah.
So moving, getting a role, I think you were around about 18 or 19 when I sort of first met you, and we were working in the same business, and knowing you just from a bit of a distance, but you progressed through, and I got to know you a little bit more the further you progressed. But your first leadership opportunity that you received, how did that feel? First impressions, like what was going through your mind?
I think early days, it's like, gee, I'm the man. You know, this is really cool. You've been promoted. You're telling your family and friends, but it probably doesn't dawn on you at the time. And I'm just thinking back, whether it was even sort of front of mind of what a leadership role really entailed, or what a good leader does or needs to do, or any of those things. It was sort of, the first emotions is sort of like excitement and happy about it. But yeah, you get in and that's when the real work sort of starts. And it was a little bit of a shock from there, I'd say. And you will probably get into it later, but 100 different things that I would do differently.
Yeah, reality sets in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What, that process of getting to the point where you wanted to put your hat in the ring to be a leader, why?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I'm not sure it's something that I ever really chased. It was never, I want to be a leader or in leadership positions, and whether that's even something that I sort of want now or not is something that I probably have to think long and hard about. But something that was just a natural progression, I suppose, within that particular business as well. And the opportunities were there, and it seemed like good opportunities at the time. And, even not that you get sort of pushed into it, but you have some positive feedback, and you may even have some leaders of your own that sort of say, hey, I think this might be a good opportunity for you. So all those things, rolled into one. Definitely not something that that I chased or got out of bed and chased every day, but something that sort of was natural next step at that time.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine you're at school and, you're talking to your guidance counselor and you're going, I just want to be a leader.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely
That's my career. That's what I want to do. So reality sort of set in. What was that? Like, what was the things that you were sort of worried about? What was on your mind?
Yeah, I think that people are now relying on you, and there's extra responsibilities and all those things that come along with it. But I suppose for me, being pretty young at the time, 22, 23 maybe, I suppose there's some examples there. I had older team members. I remember a particular one-on-one session with an older team member, and it was around planning for retirement and things like that. And it was, what have those 22, 23-year-old, what have I got to add to that? Why am I the one that should be, helping out with this sort of transition into retirement? And that's just sort of one example, but different things like that. There's challenges with when it's I suppose, an internal promotion. You're coming from a team that you're a part of. You're now leading that team. There's other dynamics there with potential people in that team that have also gone for the role or thought that they might be a better fit for the role, whether they've gone for it or not. Whether I'm the right fit, they might be thinking those sorts of things. So there's challenges within that aspect of the team. And then there's the day-to-day challenges of, gee, I don't know if I have all the answers here. I think that's something that I probably got wrong to start with, is that I thought I had to have all the answers. So being a little bit naive with that, and then also conscious of not asking too many questions. You don't want to be a burden or put it out there that you might not be the right fit for the role. So they're probably things that I look back on and go, no, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay not to have all the answers.
Is that easy to admit though?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident and comfortable with that now. Like, yeah, there's things that I got wrong, or, things that I had the wrong idea around the role. Like that, like you don't have to have all the answers. You can reach out, and I'm pretty comfortable with that now. That's fine.
That dynamic of working with someone one day and then the next day you're their leader as such. Did you find that easier with certain types of team, whether a younger, older, and things like that?
Yeah, I probably found it easier with younger side or team members around my own age. The hard ones is probably, the older team members, but not even age as such, as it may be even just how long they've been with the business or how long they've been in that career or that role is something like it's just, I suppose, natural for them to think this guy's been here for 5 minutes, or even, been in the job force for 5 minutes and he's already trying to tell me what to do.
Did you find with older people just some skepticism around about, your age and your ability?
Yeah, absolutely. That I felt that. Yeah, even from people that weren't even in my sort of area at the time. You definitely feel that. But something that I don't know, thinking back on it, maybe it did worry me at the time. I'm sort of thinking now that it didn't, but maybe that's just hindsight. But I think it's probably natural from their point of view as well, as, particularly those people that weren't in the same team. They've probably not even worked with me directly, but they sort of see it from the outside, a young kid.
Yeah. That's little underhanded compliments around, you've done well for your age, or do you know what you're doing? And you can understand from an older person's point of view, if you've got someone that, is in their 50s or so and been working in an environment for some time and may be great from a task point of view, but there's someone who's, earned a leadership role ahead of them, or they feel ahead of them, whether they've gone through it or not.
Yeah, I think that what I spoke about before with not having all the answers or not wanting to ask questions probably feeds that as well. Like, I was probably at the time conscious of, wanting to have all the answers to prove those type of people wrong, knowing that there's doubters there that think you might not be good for the role. And if I'm here asking lots of questions or looking like I don't have answers, it feeds that a little bit.
How did you find that, going from a point of view where you're competent and you knew what you were doing to a point then where you've moved into a role and you were constantly asking questions?
Yeah.
Like, was that hard?
Yeah, it's a struggle for sure. There's probably times there where you think, is it all worth it? Like, should I just go back? Should it just be team member 9 to 5? You know exactly what your tasks are for the day. You come in, you get them done. Whereas the leadership role, it's a little bit like, okay, I'm in the deep end now. I don't have all the answers. People are relying on me for the answers. What do I do now? Is it all a bit too hard? There's people doubting me. And then it probably feeds into your own consciousness a little bit, is
doubting yourself.
Gee, am I actually good enough for it? I have some leaders that telling me maybe I am, but if there's some team members that think I'm not, where do I sit in all that? Am I actually good enough?
That did you find it hard with the relationship that you had with your line manager to be able to constantly ask for questions, or did you feel like a burden all the time?
I think initially, it probably felt like a bit of a burden, but pretty lucky at the time to have some good leaders around me, the ones that I got along with well, and trust is a big one for me. It's getting into what I look for in a leader, I suppose. But leadership for me, if I think around leaders that I've worked well under in the past, it's around someone that I trust really well. Not so much, like I don't need them to just be my best mate, but if I can trust them well, we know each other's personal lives well, all those things, then I feel pretty comfortable with that. So at the time I had some leaders that I felt really comfortable with, and I think back to it, and their messages were probably around that, as like, hey, it's okay to ask questions. So once I got past it in my own head, then it felt pretty comfortable.
Would you have gone for the role if you didn't have a leader that you had some trust with? Or, like that person who you'd be reporting through?
That's a really interesting question. I'm not sure. I think I'd probably lean no, I don't know. Maybe I would have. Yeah, there's some roles probably that I would have gone for regardless, and some maybe that I wouldn't have. But no, I think does depend a lot on who your leader is at the time, what feedback you're getting.
Well, you're just bearing your soul a little bit, right? Like it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, is one thing, right? Like you've been, if you're in a frontline leadership position like you were at the start there, and you've gone into the recruitment process and you were viewed as the right candidate for that. That doesn't necessarily mean you know everything. You mentioned around probably not something that you seeked out, but what interested you about the opportunity from a leadership point of view, going down that path?
Yeah, it's probably just around that natural progression. The role beneath that was one that probably reached the boundaries for me. And if I wanted to really test myself and challenge myself, that was the natural step. But it also goes back to that sort of not really knowing what you're getting into as well. The things that appealed to me at the time were probably the wrong things around the title, being the man, getting a promotion without actually knowing what comes along with that.
With that early 20s, right, the grind of just being in a position and you've mastered it, you know what you're doing, you can do it consistently, compared to a new opportunity. That, I'd imagine from what you're saying here, is that grind is not something that you liked.
Yeah, I think it definitely has a place. There's times where you might like it, but it's probably just natural human instincts is that if you get to a point where you're not doing anything new or challenging yourself at all,
get bored?
Yeah, 100% something that you need to have in your daily life.
Yeah, that constant challenge and because like you think about it, when you're challenged about stuff, what are you thinking about? Like you're thinking about what you're doing and how can I be better? When you're in a grind of just, I've done this before and all this, I can do it with my eyes closed and all that. So what do you start thinking about? You start thinking about, well, okay, well, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? Like, well, you're not stretched as such.
Yeah, like I'll be honest, there's times in leadership roles or difficult roles I've had where you go, I just want a day or a week back in that old role where you come in, it's 9 to 5, cash a check, and you got nothing else to think of. You can be in your own box. You're not chatting. You don't need to talk to anyone. You're in your own box and you come in, you do your work and you go home. And leadership can be a little bit about that. But yeah, I think long term, it's something that I needed and I do need. And I think a lot of people need is to be doing new things or challenging yourself in new ways. And that's work life and personal life, I think, as well. If you're not challenging yourself at all, then you're not growing, you're not all of that. I know it's a bit corny, but that's
we just get
probably
bored.
The truth.
You just get bored, right? And that's hard from providing that environment, because if you go into say for instance you're young, you're going into a workplace, well, you don't want to just stay at that entry level position. So what do? Do you move to another business? Do you hopefully get an opportunity within the current one that you're at? What does that look like? If there are opportunities, well, that's great, because I can work towards something, I can improve. There's some natural sort of progression there and drive and push, but that's not everywhere. So having an environment where you are able to progress is helpful.
Hey, is it easy then to provide that environment for leaders to sort of progress naturally?
Well, it's probably dependent upon like the workplace, right? Like if there's growth or not. Like if it's just stable, well, there's not going to be opportunities. Could be stable from a workload point of view, and then all the leaders are leaving for whatever reason, right? Which isn't a good sign. Do you really want to go for a role that everyone keeps leaving? But normally if you've got an environment where there's constant growth and you're able to progress and provide opportunities, like that's cool. Like I've sort of found with people in their particularly early 20s is they don't want to deal with that grind as much, right? So they don't want to just, once they master something and can do it consistently, they're interested in the next thing. All right. Now, how do you balance that between, that's the question that I find, is the balance between getting the best out of them, but then also them understanding is that there has to be a little bit of consistency and that grind, because you can't just keep jumping to different things just because you get it, right? Like that can be, you can't keep providing those opportunities, but if you can, you will get more out of those people because they'll continually grow, and there's some really quick growth that you can get there. But that's the hard thing, if you can, and balancing that grind between that and the progression stuff. Like I really enjoy, like, you think about the benefits of having young people come in and from a leadership point of view, wanting to learn, nailing things, achieving things they haven't been able to do, and now they're getting it, and the energy that comes from that. Like, that's cool to be around. Like, that provides everyone in that environment energy. That's an infectious thing that you want within a team environment. So you can, there's plenty of benefits that go with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that balance between just chopping and changing positions because I don't feel like that anymore. That balance is the thing that I sort of find. So that relationship with your line manager, what are you looking for there? What are some signs that tells you that you trust them? What is that?
Yeah, hard to articulate, I suppose, but someone that cares about you, or I think I said doesn't need to be my best mate, but at least cares about me as a person rather than just the work. And I think I give that back as well to my leader and care about their personal life a little bit. So just building that natural rapport and that trust, like trust is the number one for me. If it's a leader that I think just wants me for the output or for the work, then I'm probably less inclined, as funny as it is, to perform better. I think someone that I can trust, and not even so much about performance, but just going to them for things, whether it is those questions, difficult things that you have to do in the role, or even things that are happening outside of work. Just trust is the number one for me. Trusting your leader is something that I need, not a want. Yeah.
Well, I suppose there's that thing, if they don't want to know anything about me or relate to me personally. So, okay, well, if I mess something up from within the role, I'm not doing it great. So if there's not that care or want from a personal point of view, like, where does that go? Like, does that mean that I'm dead to them?
Yeah, that's right. It's just work and that's it. So I need that little bit extra. And like I said, they don't have to be my best mate, or we don't even have to meet outside of work. It's just that trust within work that I can go to them with whatever. I know that it's not just output in terms of work that they're after. It's me as a person. So
how do you go relating to someone that's full professional mode? Like talks the lingo. Is that harder for you to relate?
Yeah, I struggle big time. Like, I'm big on culture, and I'm always coming to work. I'm upbeat. I'm happy to have a bit of banter and have a laugh, and particularly take the piss out of myself quite often as the icebreakers, I suppose, or things that I can do to sort of build some morale and some culture. But yeah, someone that's sort of straight down the line, and you need to be professional. You need to have all those things within the business world or leadership.
But you got to be able to relate.
100%. Yeah, if it's someone that's giving me donuts and I'm trying to have a bit of banter, and whether that's, you just got to be at the right time, obviously. But yeah, I really struggle with that. I think building relationships and things is probably one of my strengths, but someone that doesn't open up is, definitely a struggle.
You moved from, leading direct teams, and you went into sort of some roles where you're in charge of logistical movements and working with subcontractors, and, at a point where they weren't, I suppose you didn't have direct influence on them, but you had to manage relationships. How did you find that?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with building relationships or building rapport with people, particularly in the transport world, which is probably where you're alluding to with contractors and things like that. Like, something that I don't think I have any issues with. Probably the most comfortable part of the job. Like, I can talk to anyone, build those relationships, and it's probably from a point of view, like I said before, with trying to be upbeat and build that team culture, there's a line with that as well. So something that I've got been better with over time, but that's one of the challenges initially in the role, is finding that line between, trying to build culture and be up and about. I'm always pretty jokey and pretty lighthearted, but there's times to be the opposite as well. Yeah. So finding that line is one of the challenges.
Between like relationship and authority.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I find it difficult because my natural sort of way to go is down that lighthearted, joking path. But there's times where you can't go down that road. I still find building relationships and chatting with people is still one of my strengths. But yeah, it's finding that line is something that I still challenge myself on today.
Yeah, with that around getting feedback from your line managers and leaders around the place that you're doing all right. Like, how pivotal is that? Like, because you're doubting yourself a bit in that period early on, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like you mentioned, I was doubting myself pretty early days there. And as a leader, you're probably not quite sure exactly how you're going. As a team member or different roles, you have KPIs and you got certain, things that you got to hit. But as a leader, you've still got those obviously in terms of the operation. But how am I going as a leader is a little bit different to answer.
That's a good point.
And that was probably something that I was overthinking early days is, am I going all right here or am I not? So having that constant sort of feedback from your line manager, I think is very pivotal. Yeah.
That team member point of view is just like, okay, well, there's tangible things that I'm producing or doing or whatever it may be, right? But from a leadership point of view, it is up to opinion, really.
Yeah.
Am I doing a good job? Like, if I'm asking questions all the time and people are having to reassure me I'm doing a good job, well, does that not tell me that I'm not doing a good job?
Well, like you said before, like it's very opinion based, isn't it? So yeah, what your leader thinks, what the team members in your team think, what you think as well is part of it, but you can have the sort of wrong ideas of how you're going until you get that feedback. Then you don't really know for sure.
How did you get to a point where you thought, hey, I'm on the right track here? What was that?
Yeah. Well, I might not be the best person to ask. As you'd know, I'm someone that probably doubts myself a little bit too much, but it's just that constant feedback. And I'll be brutally honest, like I'm probably one person that still requires a bit of that even to this day, some constant feedback, whether it's good or bad, just to sort of keep you on track a little bit. So yeah, that's probably another thing that I need from one of my leaders is a little bit of feedback every now and then to keep me on track or to give me that little pick me up even.
That can be hard too, like is that you look at it from someone who's your line manager and, hey, I've led people for a certain amount of time and this is how I do it. Well, that's great, but is that what you need? Is that what you need to be the best that you can be? And I think the point that I'm trying to get at here, and I suppose it's the whole purpose of the episode, is just around the fact is that it's all well and good that, I've done this for a period of time and we know what you need and all this sort of stuff. But you're the audience, you're the one who's doing it. And it's like, okay, well, that constant reassurance, you need to be able to give that a lot. That can come across as, oh, geez, I'm always got to be telling this person what they're doing and a little bit of high maintenance there and so forth, right? But, it's not going to be the same for every leader. But if you've got an up and coming person or an entry level leadership position, well, that's something that you're going to encounter a lot. Is someone young coming into it, moving from a team member point of view and then into a leadership position, that's going to be something that happens.
Yeah, and that's even back to that sort of trust areas that I was speaking about before. I need to trust that what they're telling me is actually the truth as well. Are they telling me that I'm going well just for their benefit? Like all those open conversations are all beneficial. But yeah, you're dead right in the fact of being high maintenance too. Like that's something that
you worried about.
Yeah, like and I probably overthink things a little bit more than the normal person, but yeah, you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to ask too many questions or have, always rely on feedback to keep you going either.
Were there times there where you're going like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Yeah. Oh, probably. Like I can't think back to a specific time necessarily, but yeah, there's times where you sort of want to be in that position where you don't have those responsibilities. You can come in and cash your check, do your 8 hours and go home and not have to think too much outside of the tasks that you got to do that day. Whereas as a leader, you've got everything else that you've got to think about to keep the operation going, as well as however many people that you're leading and all their things that they've got going on. So for sure.
What about tough conversations, right? Like you get to a point where you're trying to balance that relationship of, building a good culture and being close to people, but then also to that authority figure and having to pass it down some stuff that you may not even agree with, right? Whether that be a new policy or whether it's a standard or so forth, or maybe even something that you were not following a month ago when you weren't a leader, right?
Yeah.
And then you've had to have a difficult conversation with that. Like, can you remember some times like that? Like,
yeah, I mean, I won't go into too specific of details on some of those, but yeah, there's even ones that you overthink the whole day or the whole week. You got to do this. You're thinking about, you just put it off. Like I'll just go, nah, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week. And as soon as you get it done, that wasn't that bad. You know, that went all right.
Build it up.
They took on the feedback or whatever it is at the time. But yeah, I found it harder, like I said, with people that have been at the business longer. Like if someone had come into the business and I was already in that role, I found those a little bit more comfortable because that's sort of all they ever knew of me was that position. Someone that had maybe we'd been in the same role previous or same level, I'd moved up, they hadn't. They're always a little bit tougher, but it depends on the person to person. But I always found if you go in well prepared and you just get it done when you have them, then it's a lot less to overthink sort of after the fact.
Yeah. Like we've spoken a little bit about a bit of a struggle and things that are on your mind a lot. Like what did you like about doing it? Like what were the good things? What were some of those?
Yeah, definitely. Like, and this might sound a little bit cheesy, a little bit corny as well, but I always found great pride in mentoring, I suppose is the word, or leading someone that might be low confidence or low performing even, and lead them to a point where they're performing really well or they've got high confidence, and that might even be even confidence outside of the workplace. I always found, that to be the most rewarding part of the role. And as well as, I suppose I can link it back a little bit to sport. I don't really play too much sport anymore, but I'm a sport lover and been involved in sport my whole life. And I sort of think back to workplaces and try and mold them into sporting clubs a little bit. It was something that helped me out as a young leader, was trying to run my operation as a football club, which sounds a little bit funny, but everyone's got a role to play. We've got a target to hit. We're all on a common goal. We're all chasing the same thing, which is what obviously sporting clubs do. And so the other rewarding part that I found of it is whether it's this goal of, hey, 100 orders by the end of the day or the week or the month, to have everyone play their role. You put out a game plan as such. You put out what we need to do to be able to fulfill that. And the team, everyone plays their role, goes out and does that. And then you can sit back and go, gee, that was pretty good. Or you have ones where you don't hit them. What can we change? You change a couple of things, and the next month you hit it. That's always the little bit where you can sit back and enjoy the fruits a little bit.
I can imagine that you can see yourself in some other people and you want to help them like you've been helped, I imagine, right?
Yeah, there's part of that. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm the king of everything and I'm this and I'm that, but it's, 100% you can see, even when I started in that particular business where I worked with yourself, like I came in pretty green, and I was pretty green sort of throughout, but learned as I went and had leaders that helped me do exactly what I was trying to do for others. So it's a bit of a flow on from leader to leader.
So, you spoke about, I suppose, some links there to junior sport. Like, can you think back to like some junior teams you were involved with? Because it's not too different to many young people from a childhood point of view, going from team sports or individual sports through to the workplace, and some similarities there. But like, are there any sort of leaders or examples that you can sort of remember that stick out in your mind if you think back?
Yeah, top of my head. So played a bit of junior cricket, pretty successful team for a few years there, and captain of that cricket side at the time comes to mind. Like I haven't even thought about it in a long time, but just weirdly when you mention that, it comes to mind. Someone that included everyone, is pretty optimistic, good motivator. I'll give him a shout out, but Luke McPherson. So I haven't spoke to Luke in a little bit, so I'll reach out to Luke. But just someone that kept the whole team as a whole, and at the time, like maybe didn't appreciate it as much as probably I do now. And
Like, what did he do to make that happen?
Yeah, I think honestly the main thing that comes to mind is that inclusivity of everyone. Like
He got along with everyone?
Yeah, well, not even so much that he was best mates with everyone in the team, but that you could be the 11th best player on the team, or you could be the first best, the second best, but he was including of everyone. Everyone had a role to play in the team. We were all together as one, and it's probably what good sports teams need, is that togetherness and trusting of everyone to get to the main goal. And we're obviously pretty good. We had some talent in the team, but I think we wouldn't have got as far without a leader like Luke. Sure.
So it doesn't even really matter from a performance point of view, right? But like, you're remembering back and you're thinking about this stuff. Like, there's obviously some reasons why, but it was a good environment to be in. And he had a big
absolutely.
part.
Yeah, for sure. 100% he did. And I don't think it would have been the same environment without him. And clearly a captain for a reason. yeah, now looking back, like there was no doubt he was the best fit for that role.
Yeah, that's cool. From a leadership point of view, in regards to the roles that you've had, like, how do you find getting that culture and bringing that inclusivity and making everyone feel they're a part of it? Like, how have you found that? Has that been pretty easy or?
Yeah, sometimes easy, sometimes not. Like I think it depends on the individuals that you're dealing with, but it's something that I'm always very conscious of. It's something that I'm always trying to do. And maybe that's partly some learnings off of Luke that I didn't even realize that I had learnt. But yeah, it's something that I think is pivotal for a good team, is to be that togetherness and that good culture. And I suppose that's why I'm always a little bit upbeat and very optimistic, and trying to bring people in that are on the outsides of those teams and bring them into the middle of that team. Like you always hear about purple circles or, different sort of, boys club groups within teams and things like that. So it's, trying to limit that and have it as a whole team.
Yeah. Well, you've just felt the benefits from having that, right? So, it's worked. And it's funny, like within workplaces, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's more sports team approach and leadership, and that's not the same as a workplace. Well, why isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all human beings in a group environment, and there's a leader involved and so forth. So why is it any different? Like, what's the complication there? And if it's as simple of how you treat people and that breeds a good environment, well, shouldn't that be the same? Because there's human beings and there's a group of them. Like, what's different?
Yeah. And I suppose that I agree with you 100%. And that's why I've always had those links between business and sport. Like, I see so many things that are the same, and I'm probably more comfortable with the sports side of it. So that's why I probably lean that way and try and create workplaces that are similar to sport, because it's, it can breed success.
Yeah. What are some things that you do different? Like thinking back, you know, with a little bit of time and hindsight, like what would you do different in your roles?
Yeah. I might contradict myself here a little bit, where I've just spoken about creating a good culture, being upbeat and all of that. I probably didn't find the line on that quite right. So what I would do differently is probably lean a little bit more to the professional side. Not that I was trying to be everyone's mate, but it was probably lent that way a little bit too far.
Was that around just probably some insecurities that you had around, people wanting them to like you? Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's definitely it. It's part of that, as well as, I suppose, if I'm having those tough conversations or trying to push something or push standards and they don't get met or no one's listening to me, then what do you do? Like, it was that sort of nervousness of if that happens. And I think it's probably just over the years, I've gotten a little bit more professional in my own work, time management, professionalism, all that stuff. So just even the little day-to-day things, task priority and task management, those sort of little things that I think I would do better. I think early days I sort of didn't know quite where the priorities were, what needed to be looked at first, potential of brushing off things and not dealing with them when they're small issues, letting them get to bigger issues and then having to deal with them.
Just like difficult conversations.
That'd be part of that. Yeah, you have to have one difficult conversation at the start, or it turns into a big mess and you've got to have multiple. All of those things that come to mind.
Moving into leadership roles, right? Did you have that sort of stigma about, oh, this is going to be easy? Like, I've finally made it in a cushy job now?
Yeah, a little bit. I always looked out from the outside and went, the higher you go up, the less you have to do, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You get more money and you have less responsibilities, but it's probably the complete opposite. And until you get in there, you don't really know. Like, you have less sort of daily labor tasks that you complete yourself potentially, but you have all these responsibilities, and it probably gets missed looking from the outside is the team members got their thing they need to do for the day. And if you've got 10 of those under you, then you've got to worry about all 10 of those things that they're doing, as well as your own and different things that might be going on. So yeah, it's probably a little bit from the outside. I went, you just keep working up. You get to sit in an office and do a little bit less every day, but it's definitely the opposite, and you have more responsibilities and more things that are on your mind.
Yeah. No, it's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you find that? Like, did you have a similar thing when you were?
Yeah, I found that. And it's like, and I always like the exercise of throwing someone who wasn't in a leadership position into a leadership position for the day and see how they like it. And
sink or swim.
Yeah, well, it's just like a little bit of empathy and understanding. It's just like that us and them between the team and the leadership.
Yeah.
And
if I think as well, like probably link this in a little bit, is that I think that plays a part in how good of a leader you can be as well. Like if you can have all those things on your mind, if you got 100 things on your mind, but a team member can look at you and they look like you're not flustered and they might not know.
So a calmness.
Yeah, they might 100%. And I think that that's something that I try and bring even when I'm not in leadership roles is a bit of calmness and not sort of losing your head on anything. But if a team member can look at you and it looks like you're not flustered and they might not know about 99 other things that you got on your mind, and you can still deal with their problem, because in their world that's the number one thing, but you can deal with that and move on and still do and think about all these other things that you got to do. I think that's a skill in itself from looking from the outside.
Yeah, well, even that, thinking back, like a grey-haired fellow with some war stories, like I'm thinking back to when I was just doing different roles, and like you'd be physically tired from doing whatever you were, right? Like in producing and as a team member level, but then you go from a leadership point of view where you've just got so much on your mind, and your mind is tired.
Yeah.
But your body's not so much, right? Yeah. And it's just like, even if it is like, I remember in admin roles that I did, sports admin, it's just like I was busy just doing things. But then when I moved into leadership roles within that sort of environment, there was so much more on my mind that I was worried about. And I was just, I don't know, just gassed from that.
And you still got the admin stuff to do as well as the leadership stuff. It's a skill in itself for sure.
Yeah. So like on the side, you do some stuff for the WA Football League from a statistical point of view, like tracking games and player performances and so forth, but then also too, talent identification and scouting for some AFL clubs. Like there's probably, we're talking earlier just around, okay, well, how do you tell from a team member point of view whether they're doing well compared to a leader? There's probably a little bit there in regards to, how do you know if someone's performing on the field from a leadership point of view? And I know you've spoken about the eye test before, right? Like knowing someone's good compared to their stats, right? Like, I don't know. Do you find that a lot?
Yeah, you do. The eye test is a funny one. You can look at the stats for a particular game or even for a longer period of time, maybe a year or a couple of years, and they can tell you, a lot about what a team's doing well, what a team's doing not, and even on a player level, the same thing. But yeah, you can't really track what edge a really big on-field leader gives you and that leadership and what it does for the team. So just thinking, about a particular player I've watched play countless times. They might be part of a back six, a defensive structure in the back line of their team, and that particular player might be really pivotal in keeping that structure together, keeping everyone on the same page, keeping the players next to them where they need to be, all those little things, which is on-field leadership in itself, and that vocal sort of player out in the field. And then you have obviously off-field stuff. You can't track what an off-field leader gives you, or during the week what they might be providing to the group, training standards, all those things that they might be driving is something that you can't really track. But yeah, the eye test plays a little part in that, I suppose. At least when they're playing, you can sort of see that with your own eyes and see what sort of edge that might give to a team. It's nothing that you can really quantify, I suppose.
It's like, how many goals does that add to a team? How many does that
right.
save? And it may not be, this player had so many possessions and goals and so forth. But like, how do you quantify that? Like, you can see it, but you can't quantify it.
No, you can't. And that's right. Like, what edge does that give? Does that add a goal per game? Does it save you a goal per game? All those different things that, you don't really know. You can't quantify. But in terms of watching and knowing, you if you've seen enough football, you sort of have a bit of an idea. And I suppose that's back to the team. Like, if you've seen enough leaders or team members, you sort of get an idea of who's performing or who could be a leader.
Imagine effort areas is another one, right? Like there's, on-ball intensity, I suppose you could probably get to a point where you can measure that to a certain extent, but that's not a perfect thing either, Like, you can measure how many times something's done, but at what level has that been done?
Yeah, that's right. Like even in the football world, you can sort of measure pressure, or we attempt to measure pressure the best we can, but it's something that, is a little bit of that grey area. Well, I was even going to say, like, what do you look for in the workplace? Would you say that you have a bit of an eye test within the workplace? Is there certain things that you look for
Like from a leadership point of view,
Yeah.
there is that eye test, you know, and what is that? It's going to be different to what I think compared to another leader will think, and then what an environment wants to another environment doesn't want. Like if you think about your situation, right? Why did you initially get selected as a leader? Like what is it about you?
Yeah, well, that's it. I'm probably not quite sure, right? Like maybe it was the eye test. Like I don't think I was necessarily hitting the biggest targets or the best KPIs in the team, or not a necessarily natural born leader. I'm not quite sure.
Were you getting promoted into that leadership position based on how good you were at the task, or your potential as a leader?
I'd say probably the potential. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've spoken over the last little bit around, okay, well, I'm good with building relationships, right? You seem to like statistics. You know, there's a little bit of a side hustle.
Bit of a nerd.
Yeah, a bit of a side hustle going on here in regards to statistics, right? So you like seeing what things are and the truth and not how it looks, but the actual facts. So like there's two key things, right? You spoke about calmness under pressure and, you know, some optimism. I imagine that's going to come up in regards to that. So like, there's some key things. And it's like, yeah, you're right. With the eye test, it's just like, okay, well, if someone's doing pretty good at their current role, they're nailing that, they're competent, they're good at building relationships, right? Little ones that I like is doing what's best for the team and not themselves. So whether that is from a team member point of view, it's just like, okay, well, look, I don't agree with the standard that's come in, or I don't agree with a policy that's come in, but I understand and I'll abide by it because it's what the team needs, you know, compared to being a pain in the butt about it. You know, like there's some key things that you can get, but some of it is just a hunch. Like you're hiring on potential, and that's going to be different compared to whoever that leader is.
Yeah.
But like I would say to you, like without, you know, I don't even remember or know why you were selected in that role to begin with, right? But like with what you're talking about, it's like, okay, building relationships, about facts, okay, doing what's right for, like there's some key things there that make sense to me. But yeah, how do you quantify that? And that's going to be different, right? Like you can have myself say something and then someone else comes from another part of, an organization or a department to the side and may have a different opinion.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking at the top of my head now, like while we're chatting about it but you can get them wrong as well, right? Like I'm thinking in like a company business environment with identifying leadership there as well as identifying talent for the AFL. You could get the eye test completely wrong. You watch a play a few times, you think, geez, they're a player. They get to the AFL and they're just not at the standard. And you can do the same within business leadership is someone that. So I was going to ask you, like, is there one sort of memory where you thinking back to it and it's all the signs were there, all the potential was there, but it was wrong.
But that's the point, right? Is like you can be correct with your assessment, and the eye test is bang on from a leadership or a player point of view, but they don't realize their potential. And is that because they don't do it, or is that because they weren't supported enough to do it?
Yeah,
and
so there's a bit there, isn't there?
Yeah, outside factors. It's just like you're getting to the starting line. Like it's not even it's not they're going to play 300 games for a club and win the best and fairest 4 times. Like it's not even that. It's just, hey, they've got the potential.
Yeah, well,
it's the same.
No, you've nailed it actually. Like I hadn't even thought of it that way, and I'm trying to link this back to AFL where I can probably understand it a little bit more. Is like a Jack Watts, for example, he was pick number 1 in the same draft, Nick Naitanui, and I think he went 2 or 3, and I think it was 2 because there was chat about both of them. And Jack Watts went to Melbourne, who at the time were struggled for a decade at least there. And really struggled with his development there. And you think back to it and there's that conversation of if he went somewhere else, what sort of player would he have turned out to be? And same with Nick Naitanui, if he went to Melbourne, if he went pick 1 instead, where would that have taken him as a player?
Well, you even look at like the under-18s WA stateside, right, for Aussie rules. So what's the percentage and the conversion rate for all those players who have obviously got some talent?
Yeah,
they're picked in an under-18 side for a state that loves Aussie rules, right? So they've got some talent. There's some potential there, all right? So how many of those are getting through to AFL clubs? And then how many of those are getting to AFL clubs and being successful? And what does, I suppose, success mean, right? Like how many games does that mean? And, you know, injuries may be a factor that are going to limit that. But in the end, like that percentage ratio of how many are converting across, and then is that because they didn't live up to the expectations and it was life got in the way, or, you know, whatever it may be? Or was it the fact of the environment wasn't conducive to them performing well? And then could their leadership have done better in that situation to ensure that that talent realized their potential?
So there's a ton of those variable factors, right, that can change the outcome, but the eye test at the start may have been correct. But
you're right.
Actually determine the outcome.
Well, and then how do you quantify that? Like you look at it from a, you know, and having quite a bit of experience with looking at younger talent within rugby league, is like anyone can see an out and out star.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's going to be the number one pick in a draft. Like that's not hard to figure out, right? The hard ones are picking the ones that aren't the out and out, but will actually get through.
Yeah.
They're the really
100%.
hard. Yeah. And like from a leadership point of view, like some little markers that I have in my head is like, if you've had someone within, so for instance, someone comes in from a casual point of view and they work in a particular role, they've been there for 3 or 4 months, and you select them to probably progress into a leadership role. Say for instance, you've got an environment where there's high growth and you're constantly needing extra leaders, right? Because 20% growth year on year or whatever it is, right? If I've always made a mark that 6 months is the minimum. You want to see them for 6 months to be able to pick that, right? Because if you do it before that, I've just found through experience is that you get it wrong more likely than not. 6 months seems to be what I've found is to be the mark. But then from a sport point of view, so okay, well, you're going off a draft, they go off some statistics there, and then they go off some interviews and getting to know them and watching some performances and some eye tests from some talent scouts and so forth. But like, that's not perfect. They're taking a punt.
Yeah. Well, you see it even players that make it later, like 23, 24 years of age, they come into the AFL because it's just taken that time for either to develop or even just to get noticed, right? Like,
or did that knockback mean that that's the reason why they were able to get across?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Did that actually help them or not? Or did it hinder them? Like, how do you know? There's so many variables, right? But yeah, like from a leadership point of view, picking someone, like you are picking on potential. And like, even if you're someone who's a seasoned leader who's coming from outside an organization, you are still picking on potential.
Yeah.
You're making a decision based on potential because you don't know them.
Yeah.
You've met them 2 or 3 times and you've rang their references. It doesn't necessarily mean you know exactly how they're going to be.
Yeah. Well, even those roles that I fulfilled as a leader, I already have said that I'd do 100 things differently if I had those roles now. So it's like picked off potential, but you still learn as you go. And even in roles that I've done since then that might not be leadership roles, you learn every day and you would do things differently.
From a leadership point of view, things you pick up along the way and all that sort of stuff, is that sort of, you notice that in your personal life, things that have sort of, I don't know, carried on?
Yeah. Something that I've sort of done this year. I haven't done it in the past, but yeah, something new that started, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but I suppose back to being a bit of a stats nerd is just tracking things in my own personal life. So I think the quote is, you can't manage what you don't measure. Might have butchered that, but yeah, it's just around sort of whether there's things in your personal life, could be fitness based, could be things like wanting to have max 5-minute showers, or don't want to have the phone out at the dinner table, or we want to sit down and have dinner with my partner for the next, for 5 days of the week, or whatever it might be, is to actually track those. So yeah, started this year, I've got like a little thing on the side of the fridge, little spreadsheet or little tracker of different things that I want to do. Why
on the fridge?
There's a couple of things there. Obviously people see it. So Talia will see it. People that come around my house will see it. So there's a little bit of accountability within that. But I suppose the bigger one for me is personal accountability. So I could chuck it up and just tick and highlight off things no matter what. Like, hey, I know I haven't done this, but I'll highlight it off anyway. But that's not going to achieve anything. That's just purely because you want people to think you're going well. So there's that. It's a little bit of competition within yourself. So if my goal is to run 5 times a week, and I know for the last 2 weeks I've only done 3 runs, then like that third week, I really want to get 4. And it's literally no other reason than just to highlight it off. But that helps and motivates me for that. And as well as just knowing how you're going. So if you keep up a bit of a record there, like I haven't got the whole year on the fridge, but if you've got some, the last month or the last 2 months, you can sort of look back and it gives you that backing to know that you've done really well. Or if in this scenario, if the goal was to say lose weight or get quicker, you write those numbers up too. You write your weight or you write what times you're running. And if you aren't getting quicker, you go, well, why? And now I can look back and go, well, maybe because I haven't pushed myself hard enough, or I've only run twice a week for the last month. Or, hey, I've run 5 times a week for the last month, but I haven't gotten quicker. So what am I doing within those sessions that isn't quite right? So it's more so around just having that sort of knowledge up there and those numbers already. Like if you haven't got them anywhere or you're not tracking those, you've really got no idea.
Yeah, how do you know?
And that's similar to the workplace, right? Like you've got KPIs within there, but if you don't track them, you've really got no idea how you're actually going. You might sit down with a team member and the performance review isn't, hey, how do you think you're going? Yeah, I think I've had a good month. But without the data there, you've really got no idea. So it's the same with the running example is, well, I feel like I've run lots. Why aren't I getting quicker? But if you look back and you go, well, actually, I haven't run that much, then you sort of know where you're at. So it's a little bit of that accountability, tracking so you know where you're at, all that sort of rolled into one, which is similar to the workplace as well.
You've got some exciting things coming up, like you and your partner Talia are expecting a child, and 4 months.
Yeah, end of November. So,
so end of November. Yeah. Scary.
We're over halfway now. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, daunting. Yeah. Know the feeling. You're a leader within your family, and you're going to have some team members along the way soon, right?
Those one-on-ones with the little one will be interesting. Some performance reviews there for sure.
Oh, really? Keeping you up at night and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Not allowed. Hey, mate, we need 8 hours of sleep per night.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know if you're going to get that. What are you thinking the qualities are that you'll have, or you suppose you need to have in that sort of situation?
Yeah, tough question, I suppose, for me to answer a little bit with being a first-time dad coming up and not experiencing it before. But if I just think about who I am or what leader I try and be when I'm in leadership roles is, around that optimism, trying to keep things pretty upbeat and pretty positive, but pretty steady as well. So it's obviously a time that's going to be high emotion. We're not going to be running on low sleep. We're clearly a team, right? So it's not individuals going about it. It's we're a couple and we're a team and we're a family. So those are the things that come to mind initially, is keeping things, sort of upbeat, pretty level, but positive, doing things, together.
And you picked that out because you've found that helpful?
Yeah, I've been in teams that are everything's negative. I've been in teams where I try and push positive things, and I've been in those teams as well. And that's something that I am more attracted to for sure, is that positive optimism side of it. And I just think naturally, right? Like if you look at the example of having the kid, if we're both getting lack of sleep, the baby's crying all the time, there's all that, there's different times of feeding, there's different things going on, and we're all...
Lots of change, yeah.
Well, there's change, there's all of that, and we're moping around and everything's negative, which there's going to be times, like it's going to be really tough. I'm not under any illusions of that, but just to answer your question plainly, I suppose, is the things that come to mind that I'll be focusing on is those things to try and keep it positive, keep us as a team, because the last thing you want is to be negative towards each other when we just want the same thing.
Yeah, and it's probably easy too. Like just as humans, we have a knack for doing that, don't we? Like we get a little bit caught up in things. But when you're
easier said than done.
Lack of sleep is the killer, right?
It's easy for me to tell you right now as well. That's how I want to be, and that's what's going to happen. But when we're in the time and we're running off 2 hours sleep, and things are getting tough, it's probably going to be easier for me to be negative. But what I'll be focusing on.
But you're thinking about it now. It's better than not, right? Like
for sure.
You're a step ahead in that regard. That's for sure. Yeah, really appreciate your time, Blake. And, I know it's, like I said at the start, twisted your arm a little bit, but that perspective from a young person's point of view, I think is really important. And understanding what young leaders need to be supported to sort of go through that challenging time. And I think older people, when I put myself in this bracket, can get a little bit caught up in knowing supposedly exactly what they need. So, your perspective is interesting, and was really keen to talk to you on that. So I can't thank you enough for that, mate.
No, I appreciate it, mate. It's been fun. Always good to come on and chat. And like I said, invoices in the mail.
Yeah, well, you survived, mate. So yeah, send
Got
it through.
Thanks, mate.
No, thank you, Blake.